in the sub-Saharan Africa is mainly based on rainfall. And when there are rainfall fluctuations, you could definitely expect low production and therefore low productivity. The other element is mechanization. You see in Northern Africa that they actually share 37% of all the tractors import in Africa. So which is a lot, while the sub-Saharan Africa share less than 10% of the import of agricultural machines. So those different elements gives us some lessons which policymakers can probably learn from in order to improve the agricultural productivity. I hope I answer your question. Otherwise, do not hesitate to come back.
Yeah, sure, you answered it. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Tebila, and thank you for your support too.
Thank you.
Okay, other questions? I don't see anything coming in the chat. I don't see hands. If Dr. Ganga, if you see some more, let me know. I see Sam with his hand up.
Yeah. Hello.
Hello, Sam.
Yeah, thank you so much. My name is Sam. Congratulations, Hojo, for the great job. I'm so proud of you. My question is on your last essay. One of your recommendations is for the all the stakeholders, or from the farmers to the processors, right, to be able to work together. Am I right?
Yes, actually also consumers. So the recommendation is for breeders when they are coming up with new varieties to include all those stakeholders in the very inception of the breeding process.
Okay, so how possible can that be? Whose responsibility is that? Is it going to come from the government to put in place necessary mechanisms or structures to make that happen? Or is it going to come from the farmers themselves or the processors? Whose responsibility is it going to be to make it possible in Africa?
Thank you. Yeah, thank you, Sam. This is a great question. Actually, I would say all of them has their part at stake. The government as a regulatory institution can create the environment and also fund research, right? By providing researchers with more funding in conducting their research activities. But definitely the most important responsibility is all on the breeder, right? He is actually the key agent here coming up with the new variety. And for a breeder, there is no much success to feel like the new variety I have developed is actually accepted by farmers and is widely grown. So in order for that to happen, my essay is actually informing the breeders that you don't want to actually focus only on the farmer and coming up with a variety that can increase the yield. By doing so, you make the farmer happy maybe for the first year, but if that variety doesn't actually sell on the market, the farmer is not going to come back to buy the seed the following year. So as a breeder, to achieve the top success in your activity, you better actually take your time to listen from those different stakeholders, including the farmer, the processor, and the consumer. Everyone has his own interest in the new variety you are developing, so that the attributes, if you were to select only 3 of them, you can take the top attribute from each of those agents and make a variety that can definitely be accepted. That definitely need funds. Researchers need funds to do that because breeders might be facing some funding limitation, and that's where the government can come into play to support them. So that's actually what I'm tapping into. I hope you are getting my idea now.
Yeah.
Thank you, Sam. Thank you, Sam.
Great, and I think as an answer to that question, it's turning from these public sector breeding systems to think a little bit more like a private sector and develop product profiles that suit a specific need and end. So on one hand, Hojo did a great job responding to that question, but the empirical results from the study and trying to determine where the greatest sources of, or the greatest disequilibriums exist between breeders and end users would also help to define that strategy for generating that information. So the private sector, you think about focus group discussions, product development, product testing. And so in a long-term bridal development process, taking, at the present time, anywhere up to a decade, getting it right to start is critical so your errors don't compound. So great question. And wish we had some more empirical insight on what would be the most effective strategy. I see a hand up by Christian Adama. Christian, would you like to ask your question, please?
Yeah, thank you so much. And I want to really say congratulations to Ojo. We are really, really proud of you. And in concluding your work, you did mention some marketing at the end. So as a member of the diaspora, I just wanted to ask, what do you suggest, so, from people that live here, maybe they're not planning to move back home, but they wanted to invest. So where should we start from so that investing in agriculture can actually impact the welfare in those areas of your research or any other countries in Africa, especially in West Africa, where I'm from?
Wow. This is a very big question. And I guess it could actually be another topic of dissertation. But I'm going to bring some insights to that. It's a brilliant idea to get the diaspora being interested in agricultural sector, and it's actually strategical because it's the primary sector of economies. And when you look at the experience of United States and the Asian tigers, at some point they needed agriculture to actually support the economic system. So therefore, investing in that sector is a key element to achieve economic growth. Now, for the diaspora to jump in and support agricultural development, looking at the marketing side, I think the job can be done by looking at the marketing aspect from both helping with processing and also making or improving the connection between the centers of production, which are actually our rural areas, and the centers of consumption, which are actually the urban areas. So there are several challenges faced by farmers, going from post-harvest challenges, but also being able to actually sell at a good price and have a good revenue. And those are kind of niche, economic niche on which a diaspora can actually step in, and by actually being able to take advantage on the harvest period where the quantity produced is high and transforming and making those products available all the year long for consumers in urban areas can be a key element to think of. Also, even the different structures to improve food conservation after the harvest that happened in farm can be another element that as a diaspora people can think of supporting rural population in growing, but also providing them with some incentive in increasing their production. It's a matter of actually holding some market share, and the truth or the facts are that right now, the domestic production doesn't in most countries hold up to 50% of the market when it comes to staples, which means that most is coming from the import, and there is a lot of opportunities that can definitely be interesting for those who want to invest in the agriculture sector. That's what I would say shortly. I know it doesn't answer it all, but that's a little insight I could give to your question.
Thank you.
Welcome. Thank you too.
Hey, I see another hand up. Pachem, please.
Hello, everyone. Can you guys hear me?
Yes, Pachem, good to hear you.
Okay. Thank you so much, Ojo, for your presentation. It was so great. I learned a lot through it, and I literally applaud you for every single result of your analysis. Now, I want to ask you questions. I hope it's not too philosophical. I hope so. But now, as a development economist, especially working in West African regions, how do we make research outputs interesting or attractive enough for policymakers, for them not only to use it, but to be the one initiating those results? So pretty much, how do we communicate the value of research to public decision makers in the developing world? Anyway, your presentation was very good. I learned much from it, and congratulations again.
Thank you, Pasha. Thank you. It's a good question, because at the end of the day, the impact we want to make as agricultural economics is to provide policymakers with useful information. And traditionally, the way we used to do it is to publish in peer-reviewed journals and get policymakers access to that information. But the truth also is that sometimes policymakers are not really, they don't have full access to all those publications, maybe because of some limitations of access to some journals, but also because sometimes they don't really understand the language in which we are very technically explaining our findings and all those. And I personally think we can combine two strategies. That is, beside those traditional journal publications we make, there are also policy abstracts, which we publish in some reviews and some journals, which don't bring in a lot of mathematical formulas, which usually send people away from what we are doing. But those policy abstracts convey the most useful part of our researches to policymakers so that they can use it and address the final objective of all our research we are doing, which is reduce poverty and get people material well-being improved. So I think those are the ways as researchers we can combine, and also attending some conferences and sharing our findings are key ways to improve the overall communication between researchers and policymakers.
Thank you for that question, Pacem. I see another hand up. Edem, would you like to go ahead and ask your question, please?
Okay. Hey, Ojo, great job, bro. Great job. I'm impressed. Anyway, I have a small question for you here. In your opinion, is there like a crawl, walk, run type of approach to sub-Saharan Africans agriculture mechanization at this time? Because if you're talking about agriculture equipment, they are very, very expensive to the point that not a lot of people in Africa can afford those things like you. So if you look at the Western countries, they didn't just wake up one day and start having big machinery to do the work for them. So in today's economy, given the African environment, is there a similar approach to, getting small type of equipment, maybe not imported from outside, but made in Africa and affordable to the mass to be able to improve at least the yield, or at least increase the acreage that they can go after? Okay, that's my question.
Thank you, Edem. Thank you. It's a brilliant question. And I think, yes, mechanization is a strategic step to take to improve agricultural productivity from the capital level. Remember, I said in my presentation that we have labor, we have land, but we have capital. And mechanization actually improves the efficiency of the capital, and also it can support the labor productivity as well. And the key idea at the end is to make sure that people are spending less time on the activities, but by spending less time, they're actually spending less in terms of cost of that activity. And that's where mechanization actually needs to support the system. Importing agricultural machines from abroad carries several challenges. The cost, they are very expensive, you said it. And if at the end of the day, adopting mechanization is increasing the cost of production, then we are not helping enough. So we need to make sure that by mechanizing, we are reducing the cost of production so that definitely we are improving the overall efficiency of the production. But how can we therefore reduce that cost, which is actually the core aspect of your question? I think efforts are done. Like you mentioned, there are small scaled level of mechanization which are going on, and with some research activities, Dr. Ben Schwab and myself, we conducted with some partners in Burkina Faso. And from what I know also from Togo, there are some machines that are developed from actually, I would call them semi-modern units of producing mechanization tools, which are actually supplied to farmers, and which in some extent are more affordable, but also can in some extent respond to people's needs. But the big challenge is the affordability from the farmer side. As you know, for them to be able to access all those tools, they either need to do that from their own income and savings or through credit. And in both cases, you see that in our countries, farmers are definitely weakened. So at some extent, I think there is a need for maybe private institutions or maybe government to create a framework that can actually support competition and reduce those costs and get more farmers adopting those tools. But also, it's important for the farmer to feel that the mechanization tool they're adopting is actually improving something in their production activities and their end result, which is the total benefit they are making. I think several strategies and bold actions need to be taken on that aspect, because definitely, as you mentioned, if productivity is to be increased besides adopting good varieties, we definitely need to reduce uncertainties from the production side, but we also want to improve the productivity of capital and labor, and that goes through mechanization. That's how I would look into the issue you brought. I don't know if that clearly answers your question.
Yeah, you are right on top of the money. Thank you very much for the clarification.
Thank you, Eden.
Great. Do we have any more questions from the audience? Please raise your hand or chat box. I can pass it on. Okay, I don't really see any more going once, going twice. I think that's it, Dr. Hiderashi.
Yeah, so I think, thank you, Tim, and thank you, Hojo. So thank you, Hojo, for excellent job. And I don't know whether everyone can join me. Congratulating Hojo for excellent presentation and answering questions. How to do it, maybe you can put reactions or something. I saw a lot of messages on the chat box, so that's there as well. And then right now, we are going to excuse general public, and then Hojo and the committee can stay, and then maybe we can have 5-minute break or something so that Hojo can have some break before we start the second part of his defense.
Great, thank you very much.
Everyone.
So let's just, everybody join me in clapping virtually and congratulating Joe. Thanks everyone for participating.
Mon cousin.
Good job, Hojo.
This is my cousin.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much, guys.
Félicitations.
Yeah, okay. Stay safe.